Thank you for tuning in to the Digital Contractor Show on Turf's Up Radio. I'm your host, Chris Fondrick with HardscapeMarketer.com, and I'm here with an exciting guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates in Cape Cod and Nantucket Island. How are you doing today, Ian?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Just for a little background, guys, Ian has one of the best printed, what are we calling it, brochure, catalog?
Booklet.
Booklet.
Portfolio booklet, yep.
Holy cow, I don't even know what to call it. It's so good. It's blowing everybody out of the water, so y'all listen up. So Ian, can you tell us how long you guys have been in business?
We incorporated in 2017. We began servicing clients in 2018. So this is our second year, but our first full year in business.
Okay. What's your approximate revenue?
So last year, 2018, it was just under 300,000. This year, 2.6 million.
So it sounds like you know a thing or two in growing revenue and going up.
I owned a previous company from 86 to 96, and I sold that. So I had a little bit of cheat codes to get going.
Right. Gotta love the cheat code approach.
Yeah.
How many trucks are you guys running doing that kind of revenue?
We have about 5 trucks in the company.
5 trucks. Yeah. And just so everybody's clear, which services are you offering?
We're primarily landscape construction and stone masonry. We also handle the installation of swimming pools. We utilize subcontractors for that. And we are just launching a maintenance division on the island, which is 100% electric, using the lithium-ion battery technology now.
Are you offering hardscape maintenance with that as a line item, or is it just the landscape maintenance in general?
Pretty much just the landscaping.
Okay. I know the battery-powered gear is the wave of the future coming up. How you liking that?
It's excellent. I mean, there's no gas, obviously, no oil dripping on people's property, no smoke, and they're much quieter. So that's the sales pitch. And we're in a resort community, so we're selling that, and people want to feel like they're helping the environment as well.
Right. So which markets do you serve in that? Cape Cod and Nantucket Island in general? Or?
Yeah, we're based in Cape Cod, and Nantucket we have a permanent location as well. But we will often go off Cape and serve south of Boston, South Shore, and southeastern Massachusetts, like a little bit close to Rhode Island sometimes.
What's it take to get you guys to travel that far for a job?
Money.
Right. The right motivation for a business owner.
Yes.
So you said cheat codes earlier. What was probably the biggest thing that you implemented from your past experience when you started? I have to have this one thing.
People. So the genesis was I had a reunion of my former employees who all still lived in the area. They were all at different companies. They came to my house and they started showing me pictures of work they were doing, which, 10, 12 years later, that when I sold the business, they had become masters and master craftsmen. And I realized what I had, and they're telling me, hey, boss, whenever you're ready, we want to come back to work for you. So I had this built-in workforce that I could draw on as I built the company up from the ground up.
What do you think were a few of the key ingredients that went into making that kind of loyalty? Because you hear a lot of employees, they don't have much love for the boss, and they wouldn't say
Right.
something like that.
Right. I think just treating them like human beings, helping them solve some of their problems if they need some kind of an advance or help. I've always been there to help them. Some of them immigrated here from other countries, so I helped them in the immigration process, help family members. And, I take it as a badge of honor that these guys will leave companies that they've been with for 7 or 10 years and come back to me on a startup. So I didn't take that lightly, and I didn't want to take them if I didn't have a continuation of work for them and jeopardize their situation. So I built the company, started landing bigger projects, hired a few more, word spread around, and we actually had a Facebook chat with all the former employees that are on Facebook. So I would post pictures of work that I'm doing within our private group. So they would all see the new company. They'd see some of their former coworkers who'd made the leap. And then suddenly they're asking me like, hey, can I come on board? When are you going to have another opening? And, we're still pulling guys from that pool.
That's awesome. Wow. And I love that I heard you say they had become masters, like being able to identify the fact that they were great at something, and that didn't lessen your value as an owner. You weren't trying to compete with them in that ability.
Correct.
I love that. Well, we're going to take a quick break here on the Digital Contractor Show, and we'll be back with more from our guest, Ian McCarthy of Blue Claw Associates.
Hey, Turfs Up Radio fans, this is Tim Fondrick with Hardscape Marketer. Are you frustrated or overwhelmed with marketing your business? If you'd like to be a local market leader, create a steady stream of new customers, and spend more time doing the things you love, we can help. We know what it's like to build a landscape business, run crews, and work with customers. If you're ready to grow your business by getting your internet marketing right, download our ultimate internet marketing cheat sheet today at hardscapemarketer.com/cheat sheet. That's hardscapemarketer.com/cheat sheet.
We're back on the Digital Contractor Show on Turfs Up Radio with our guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates in Cape Cod and Nantucket Island. We're going to talk a little bit about guest background here so everybody can get an idea of your experience, Ian. We talked a little bit in the last segment about you had previous business, sold it, took a little break, got back into the business. Can you talk a little bit about how that happened? What was the motivation to get back into the industry instead of, staying out? Or
Yeah, my original career, I was in accounting, so it helped me with numbers and everything. But I ended up buying a business in '96 with a couple partners, and eventually bought them out, grew the business, learned the landscaping trades, through the office, through estimating, and eventually project managing. Grew the company to 51 employees. Had a little burnout, but I also had an opportunity to go into an exciting sports venture in professional basketball, which was my passion outside of work. And so I sold the company and took that leap, which led me to live in Canada for 6 years. And then while I was in Canada, I had a daughter born, and I have 2 older sons. And my wife wanted to have my daughter in the States back on the Cape. So she ended up having the baby, but I was stuck between running a professional basketball league and my family. So after about a year of doing that, I decided I needed to move back to the Cape. And I'm from Maryland originally, so I had 6 months of brainstorming, thinking what I was going to do next. So I started crabbing for fun in the rivers here. And I had a reunion of my former employees that were all in the area. And they came to my house, and first thing they said is, "Boss, when are you going to start your company? We're ready." They started showing me pictures of work they were doing. And it was like, wow, these guys are master craftsmen. They're better than they were when they worked for me. And I thought they were pretty good, but they're A-level. So I have this pool of talented labor, and the economy's booming. So I started brainstorming, and I was trying to think of a name that would be significant to a maritime community, but not something that everyone's always used. And then I was like, well, the genesis of this was me going crabbing. So I started playing with the crab, and that's where I came up with Blue Claw Associates. And I worked about a year on the business plan, the social media, portfolio. I used a lot of pictures from my old company to get it jump-started. And here we are 2 years later.
I love that you didn't just jump right in. You took the time to pay diligence and make sure that you had your ducks in a row and that you were dotting I's and crossing T's.
Exactly.
I think that's where a lot of guys go wrong. They're excellent craftsmen, but don't really have the background to jump in as a businessman and run the company that way, and then end up pulling their hair out and scrambling. What's your ideal customer? I know you guys do a lot of high-end work, and it's beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about your ideal customer?
The model that we've adapted is landscape architect model, where we do not do design in-house. We target landscape architects, designers for a repeat clientele, because they have high-end customers that paid them already to do a beautiful design, and they're looking for contractors to install that. So if you can build a relationship with those architects, they're going to just keep giving you their projects one after another after another. So you kind of form a circle of trust with them. And out in this area, their clients, which would eventually be my clients, are the second homeowners, the very wealthy people that have 2, 3, or 4 houses, and they come out to the Cape and Islands for the summer for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months at the most. Some of them have private planes and all kinds of toys, but they're building really like a dream estate, swimming pool, tennis courts, that kind of thing.
And that demands a high-end approach to the marketing then too, right? And the relationship building, you can't just shotgun everything, right?
Oh, absolutely. And now all of our social media and website had to be a very high-end feel, or you kind of lose them right off the bat. And that's the approach we took with the booklet.
Yeah, I love that approach. I can't tell you how impressed I am with that. So what would you say your unique selling proposition is then?
Is that we can handle everything on the site for the homeowner, and that we work closely with their architect, and their architect obviously had recommended us. And so there's a comfort level of trust that we're going to be able to deliver the project that was dreamed about and put on paper by the architect. We're going to be able to bring it to reality for them. And then now we're wrapping it with the maintenance package after the fact, with the lithium battery, quieter service, better service on the back end.
The experience to back up the claims that the contract says, right? Like
exactly.
You've got the goods. Yeah.
Yeah, and in our area, the masonry is what determines the company in a way, because everybody's grass and mulch are going to look the same. But it's the stonework, the quality of stonework that really separates the companies here, and the architects definitely appreciate that, and they won't engage a contractor that does not the kind of work that they want to see. There's a hierarchy to that.
Right. Well, doing good work's never the wrong thing, right?
That's it.
And so that's how you position with the customers, right? You've got the experience, you do high quality work, you can deliver. Yep. You're not the cheapest shop in town, and if they want that, they can go somewhere else. Yeah?
Exactly. Yep.
Perfect. That's all solid gold. The audience should really like that. We're going to take another quick break here on the Digital Contractor Show on Turf's Up Radio, and we'll be back with more from our guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates. We're back on the Digital Contractor Show with our guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates in Cape Cod and Nantucket Island. We're going to talk about the marketing overview for this company, and talk a little bit about taking the friction out of it between traditional advertising and the digital approach. Because in all actuality, you need a well-rounded approach. And I think Ian is a great example of how to execute on that. Can you tell us what types of marketing you do in general, Ian, and what the overall mix is?
Yes, well, exactly. One of the reasons I was excited to get back into this business was the things I had learned in the world of sports, which was very social media driven. And I was able to then think of ways to apply that to landscaping. And so obviously you have to have a website, a Facebook page, an Instagram in order to be basic. When you promote yourself to somebody, they're going to immediately go look you up online and see how you look. And then, of course, we added to that, email blasts. We've done LinkedIn messaging to principals that you're trying to contact. Instagram, I think, is probably one of the most powerful for our industry because a lot of architects and designers will freely follow you. And so if you're doing good work, they're going to consistently see that, and then you can see when they like it, which is big. But we also do in-person targeting. We do mailers. And so I felt when I made the booklet, it was important to have a digital version and a printed version. And for the digital version, I ended up going with a flippable book because I had seen that done elsewhere, and it was very cool how you press a button and the pages turn as if it was a live book. But we're getting those in the hands of people now in person, and the reaction has just been incredible. We just spent 2 days of visiting landscape architects and builders in our area, and every single one of them, and it's like a high glossy magazine, they we'll definitely get this to the right person, or if we're talking to the person, they'll flip right through it and look at the work, and it's opening many, many doors for us.
Well, and in the layout, I noticed that you have a spot in there to show love to whose project it was, right? The general contractor or the architect. You're making them feel special and recognized for their work, right?
Well, there's another trick to that too, and I learned that in sports. We called it corporate credibility. if you have a particular architect that's well known and you list them as having worked with you on a project, their competitors and associates in the world of landscape architecture, when they read your publication, they see that other person and they think, wow, if you can work for them, then you can work for me. So it's kind of giving you that corporate credibility as well as scratching the back of those other people, giving them some exposure.
Right, right. I love how it makes it easy for the designer to help sell the work, right? They get to say, well, here's a real life example of what it looks like. And you did that for them.
Absolutely. And then when we go there, we don't give them a copy. We give them 5 or 6 or 10 copies, because throughout the year, they're going to hand them off to clients saying, hey, here's the guy that I work with. Take a look at his work. So we want to make sure that they have those materials handy.
So you've got a very high-end clientele. What would you say drives the most leads for you? Not necessarily the best, but the most leads for you.
I would say it's really the in-person relationships, but how do you get those is the key. And people in general, in the work, especially in business, are just programmed to shut off any kind of solicitation. You know, you go to offices, there's a secretary to screen you to make sure they don't get harassed all day long. And even, you know, how many people ignore messages or emails. So you have to find a way to get through to them to where they will respond to you. And if you're doing high level work and you're working for their competitors and they can see that, suddenly the doors open. Now they're interested. So it's how do you convey that message to them? And it comes down to having the right materials. Obviously, you have to be doing that work to be able to show that off. But if you try to jump in there and your materials aren't right, you're going to fail before you even get through the front door.
Right. And I think that's a great segue into the next one, because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the most profitable leads come from the architects themselves, the designers, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's all a well-oiled machine, it sounds like, over there, and just all works together, and it's based on making sure that your designers and the guys that are feeding you work don't have some level of perceived indifference from you, right? They know that they're important to you.
Oh, and then we have to act the part. We have to respond immediately when they call or text or send us a project. We have to bid it within the timeline allotted, and we have to communicate. If we just ignore them, then we could end up losing that relationship. Right.
So can you talk a little bit about, I know, we just got going in 17. Can you talk a little bit about any marketing efforts that you've stopped since you started going, just because, the market shifted or it just wasn't working out in your area?
Well, we do this push in the beginning. Like I did this when I first started the company, and then we got enough work that we weren't doing it for a while, but we still always consistently do Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, because we're showing off our work. But I guess it's kind of like annual, where we actually go around and do this in-person push to new potential architects. And after that, it just spins on its own.
Right. And that's always this time of year, right? Things are a little slow, weather, and you just, yeah, I love it.
Good.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to have to talk a little bit more about how the digital book flips for you in the next segment there. We're going to take another quick break on the Digital Contractor Show, and we'll be back with more from our guest, Ian McCarthy.
Hey, Turfs Up Radio fans, this is Tim Fondrick with Hardscape Marketer. Are you frustrated or overwhelmed with marketing your business? If you'd like to be a local market leader, create a steady stream of new customers, and spend more time doing the things you love, we can help. We know what it's like to build a landscape business, run crews, and work with customers. If you're ready to grow your business by getting your internet marketing right, download our ultimate internet marketing cheat sheet today at hardscapemarketer.com/cheat sheet. That's hardscapemarketer.com/cheat sheet.
We're back at the Digital Contractor Show on Turfs Up Radio. I'm your host, Chris Fondrick with hardscapemarketer.com, and we're here with Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates, Inc. in Cape Cod. We're going to talk about a standout project. Ian, can you tell us about a project that's near and dear to your heart that you guys recently did?
Well, again, talking about my sports career, we were very involved in the community in that industry, getting involved with schools and children and charities. And so when I was asked by the Cape Cod Landscape Association this year to participate with some volunteer landscaping and materials for a company that was building houses for veterans. We jumped on that. It was a good cause, and we got to be involved with the community. And so anytime you can do something like that and get your company name out there and associated with something good in the community, as well as doing good for a charity or a good cause, we want to look at doing that.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Did the association know that you were open to that, or did it just kind of happen, or like how did you position to be able to get that?
Well, it was actually one of our landscape design partners who was chairing it up for the association, and so she reached out to us. And are we going to say no to her? She's one of our clients that gives us projects, and besides that, it was a good deed. So we went ahead and did it.
Another great example of how you've got to network to get work, right?
Absolutely.
Or opportunity. Yeah, I love it.
Or if they need some at their house, you'll be there.
And that was the Cape Cod Landscape Association?
Yes, it was. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Power of association membership. So we're going to take another quick break. We'll be back here very shortly with more from our guest, Ian McCarthy. Well, thank you for staying here on the Digital Contractor Show. I'm your host, Chris Fonrick, and I'm here with our guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates in Cape Cod, Nantucket Island. We're going to talk about digital focus on marketing here. Ian, do you guys have any special initiatives to attract online reviews?
Well, it starts with the client and doing a great job, and then not being bashful about asking for a review. I think a lot of contractors may skip that part or feel kind of shy, but I basically, if the client's happy, I ask them to put it in either one of the mediums, whether it's Google, Facebook, or Houzz, or even if they're not so digitally inclined, they can send a letter, which we can post, and then we keep all those. We have 2 pages in the back of the flip book that have our, commentary on their experience with us, and nothing says better about you than what others say about you, more than what you say about yourself.
100%. Now, given your clientele and the fact that you do so much work for like architects and designers and everybody else, when you contract with an architect, do you hit them with a review request, or do you do it to the homeowner themselves?
Typically, it would be the homeowner themselves.
Yeah.
It's possible the architect would, but that's kind of an ongoing relationship, so you're only as good as what you did yesterday. But if we have a good rapport with the homeowner, usually they're ecstatic at the end of the project. That's the right moment to catch them in, right there at the moment, rather than waiting. Right.
So how are you using social media in the business?
The number one we use is Houzz. We've used Houzz for a couple of years, and it's more of an online resume for us. And a lot of people in the industry, particular architects, use it as well. And it also gives you a ranking in Google. So I've had projects and been contacted by people who were searching Google, and Houzz popped up, and we were in the top 10 in Houzz. And of course, internally in-house, we use Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I feel it's very important to be consistent, because sometimes you see companies will post in a flurry, and then they'll stop for months. And I feel like it's an ongoing story of what you're doing. So I don't just get finished projects, but I do snippets of projects in progress, show them, let people see how your crews are working, how they look, what equipment they're using. And I just want to try to be consistent with it every day or every couple of days post.
That it's actually a picture of your work, not just stock photography that you're stealing off the internet.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So
do you have, we were talking a little bit on the break about like the booklet is pinned on Facebook. I'm assuming using everything, the traditional approach and the digital approach to work together as a well-oiled machine, right?
Correct.
How much effort do you think you would put into the various social media platforms? Like, is it a big chunk of your marketing approach?
It is, but it's not that time consuming, because usually when I go by projects or my managers, they're taking pictures of everything anyway. So it's just kind of like when they're riding on the boat back, or they have a moment, if we have a great picture or a great video, then we select that. We post it once, and we have it set up to go from one platform and automatically populate the others. So it's really not a big deal.
Streamlined, like efficiencies. And I think people get overwhelmed by it, right? You just have to put a system in place and work the system.
Yep.
So digitally, like what kind of follow-up marketing are you doing with your existing client base?
I would say email's probably the top. Email and texting would be the top in terms of communicating directly with people who are already clients. You're finding now that homeowners and clients are really much more tech savvy than they were 5 or 10 years ago, almost to the point where that's why it's probably past email in frequency of use, you know. And now you're able to text pictures while you're doing the work right from the site to them, and you know, immediate communication. So that's been a big tool for us.
Do you like hit the list with your emails, special offers or anything like that, or is it just to keep a touch and add value?
Yeah, it's mainly to keep a touch, just to let people that maybe they're not clients, but they're on our list and they're seeing what we're doing. And then when you ever run into them in person, it's a much warmer approach at that point. You know, today I ran into a landscape architect who I knew and kind of walked right into his office, and he jumped up and he said, "I've been meaning to call you," and I'd never met him before. He said, "I follow you on Instagram." And I said, "Oh, that's great." I said, "We brought you some of these booklets." And like, so it was so soft and warm that he already had months and months of following our pictures and our projects, that it was like, "Where have you been?" You know what I mean? And it was, you know, he said, "I'm absolutely going to send you projects, and we're going to work together." You know, if I had none of that digital, if I had none of that digital stuff in the background over the past few months and I walked in cold, he probably would have said, "No, thanks, we don't want any," and just shut the door.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of guys fall short. You know, they have this flurry and they get going, but they don't see immediate results for it, that they're not playing long ball. It's just such a short-sighted approach to it that, like you said, if you hadn't been warming him up, he wouldn't have been pre-positioned to buy right when you walked into his office. Much harder sell. Yeah.
Yep.
So are you using email then to a targeted list, like you just mentioned? Are you using...
We do send the email about twice a year. We send an email blast, like a newsletter kind of format.
Yeah. So do you find that with your customers, like your existing client base, that the email's been working? I mean, everybody's been noticing that open rates are way down, and, you know, all of the providers are working on spam filters and all of that stuff. I've even had it where I would reply to an email and it would go into spam.
Go right in, yeah. I mean, it's harder and harder, but, you know, we just try many different levels of approach, and even if they don't open it, they saw our name, and that'll register in their mind.
That top of mind touch, yeah. Top of mind touch. Sounds like you're speaking from experience there, which is something there's no substitute for.
Well, in my old company, the iPhone hadn't been invented yet, so I was excited to leverage the new tools that are out there.
Right. I always chuckle when these guys, the new guys that are, you know, just starting and they're getting it going. Oh, it's so hard to make content and do all this stuff. Like, I was born into the industry, and my dad would tell me stories of carting, you know, the 3-inch binders full of old job photos and stuff around. And my back doesn't hurt from doing, right. My back doesn't hurt from doing the work. It hurts from carting around all this promotional stuff I'd have to do.
Yep.
That's all awesome, man. We're going to take another quick break here on the Digital Contractor Show. We'll be back with more from our guest, Ian McCarthy.
Hey, Turfs Up Radio fans, this is Tim Fondrick with Hardscape Marketer. Are you frustrated or overwhelmed with marketing your business? If you'd like to be a local market leader, create a steady stream of new customers, and spend more time doing the things you love, we can help. We know what it's like to build a landscape business, run crews, and work with customers. If you're ready to grow your business by getting your internet marketing right, download our ultimate internet marketing cheat sheet today at hardscapemarketer.com/cheat sheet. That's hardscapemarketer.com/cheat sheet.
We're back on the Digital Contractor Show on Turfs Up Radio with our guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates in Cape Cod. We're going to talk about hindsight now. And I got to be honest, this is one of my favorite parts of the show because, there's no substitute for experience. There really isn't. And it's been a great market. And I have a lot of respect for the hustle and the grind and the amount of work that the guys are putting in. But boy, if you've never contracted through a recession, you need to be super diligent right now. So Ian, I'm really interested to hear the answer to this question. What are the top 3 things you wish you knew when you started?
Boy, there were so many things I didn't know when I started because I was an accounting person. I didn't know anything about how to plant or do stone walls or anything like that. But, I think that if I had to go back in time and fast forward what I didn't know to what I know now, it would probably be how to find clients. I had no idea how to find them in the beginning. Probably how to find qualified employees. And then, how to lead. That's something you learn over time. And what I'm telling people, whether it's in any of these online groups or in person, things on how we do things, I say, listen, I'm not smarter than any of you guys. I've just been punched in the teeth more than you have. So I've learned through mistakes, and then you learn what not to do. So like you said, that experience is invaluable. And if anyone can get that from others in forums such as this, I mean, it's just a step up that would have been hard to get 25 years ago.
Right. That's one thing I really like about social media, the internet, everything, what it's done for the industry. It's made it so much easier to network and learn from everybody else, nationally, internationally, let alone, going to a local association, which there's tremendous value in. But so which marketing mistake did you learn the most from?
Oh boy. I would say that, if any of the marketing techniques that you employ, if you employ them before you're ready, I mean, you can end your business before you even get started, because I've seen companies that go out there and say they're, superior landscape or what have you. But I mean, you can put yourself out on a limb that if you can't deliver, you're in big trouble. And so I think like going out and launching too early, I spent a year, like I said, going through, I had my website launched before it actually went live, and I had people beta testing it, and I had social media built prior so that when I did go live, everything was ready. And so if you're going to do it, you got to do it right and make sure it's good before you go out and go public and start going around telling everyone you're the greatest, because they will judge you on your merits.
Right. Have the goods to back up the claims. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've always loved the quote, and I stole it from a movie, but the loudest one in the room is usually the weakest.
There you go.
So what was the biggest marketing happy accident? The one thing that, you'll just do it, or you'll give it a try, or you'll throw a little bit at XYZ, and it ended up working out great.
That was actually House. I mean, I subscribed to House when I was early on in the company, and I was hoping to get leads through the House mechanism and land homeowner clients. That's basically was my goal. And I got a call from a landscape architect last year, and it was really my first landscape architect project of this new company. And it led to a 7-figure project in Nantucket. And I had sent her email blasts, LinkedIn messages, probably text. I think I texted her. She never responded to anything. But here she was calling my phone. So after I got to know her a little bit, I said, well, how did you find us? And she said, well, the builder Googled landscapers Nantucket, and your house profile popped up on Google. So she had missed all my marketing attempts that I'd done to her. But because House had me listed high in Google, that's how they found my company name. So
never know how it's going to come.
To this day, I continue to pay that House subscription because you never know.
You never know.
Never know.
So what do you say to the owner of a contracting business that's trying to take their company to the next level?
For us, it's professionalism. You've got to look the part, online, in person, trucks. And then once you start making the marketing push and you're getting in front of people, you have to deliver on what your image says about you. You're pushing professionalism, but if you don't respond to their phone calls, text messages, emails, the image is going to fade away immediately. So you have to deliver. Obviously, the quality of work has to be there. But, if you're really, really smart in the computer industry, you're not going to stand out because everyone's smart in that industry. If you're really, really smart and proactive in landscaping, you're going to stand out in the top 5% immediately because there's so many contractors out here that are not professional, that are not answering the phone, doing those little things that are customer service oriented that make the clients feel special. And so if you look the part, you got to act the part.
Yeah, I had a buddy a number of years ago that was telling me a story. He was asked that the guys don't come back to the job because the dogs dug up what they left. So
exactly.
He revamped the entire approach, fired a couple of guys, by the by, revamped the entire approach and really started hitting. It's stuff that you just didn't think about. Like, you didn't think that you needed to touch on that. It just went.
Yep.
So brand loyalty to house, I can understand that, I guess. What made you decide to go with the website the way that you've got it set up? Was there anything in particular that made you lean that way?
Not really. I used a person that I trusted from Canada, from the sports world, to generate the first website. I'm sure it'll evolve over time. But I basically wanted a simple system. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily use websites as much as they used to. They're more gravitating towards social media, but I wanted the website to be able to be easily viewable, very visual, easy to see the pictures and the portfolio, and easy to contact us.
Yeah, in our approach, we use the website as the hub because it's the best for, lead capture or to track analytics, so you can see which platform's driving the most traffic and to position them to buy. Because somebody that's looking to spend $1,500 on a 3,000 square foot patio probably isn't your ideal customer.
No.
And you need to position on the website for that. And like you said, you never know where they're going to see you.
Exactly.
That's a long ball play. We're going to take another quick break here, and we'll be back with more from our guest, Ian McCarthy. And we're back on the Digital Contractor Show on Turf's Up Radio with our guest, Ian McCarthy from Blue Claw Associates, Inc. in Cape Cod, Nantucket Island. And, it's kind of a chance for you to mentor the audience a little bit. And can we ask if you have any, additional nuggets of wisdom or insight that you'd like to tell the world?
Well, I'd just say that one thing I learned in my first company from an older veteran, a lot of times we look at the job and see how the pictures look afterwards. It looks so beautiful. But he taught me that it isn't just how the job looks at the end. It's actually the process. Because when you're building the project, the homeowner is there at night when you're gone. They're going out there with a glass of wine, the husband and wife, walking around, looking at what's going to be their dream landscape. And if you have coffee cups everywhere and cigarette butts and materials and tools strewn all over the place, every time they look at it, it's going to bring a negative image. So he taught me the importance of how to do the process of a landscape job, how to put things away, how to keep the site neat. And that's actually a form of marketing, because if they see that, your architect comes by and sees that you look professional and organized, it goes a long way in backing up that story of who you said you were.
Right. You've got to have the goods. You've got to deliver on the goods.
Yep.
Do you figure that into your proposals then? Like site cleanup time every day?
Yeah, we do. We have to figure that out. We have to know our numbers. It comes down to man hours within the contract. A lot of the guys, you see the younger landscapers, they want to know how much square foot should I charge for this or linear foot for that. And I feel like that's a dangerous recipe, because it shows that they really don't know their numbers and they're trying to look for a cheat code to be able to just put a proposal together. And if you don't really know what to price something, you need to ask someone that knows how to do the work. Hey, how long is this going to take? And maybe you put in a flub factor. You figure your materials would mark up your equipment. A lot of guys skip their equipment charge. We charge our equipment like we're a rental shop. We charge our labor like we're a staffing agency. We put materials like we're a retail yard, and we bundle that all into the contract along with unforeseen conditions. And then we have to use those numbers to convey to our foreman the budget so that they can produce the work within the budget. So a lot of those things, I had some benefit coming from an accounting background, but the resources now that are available with the professionalism and the education you can get out there in the green industry, there should be no excuse for guys not knowing their numbers.
Well, and suppliers are more than happy to help with, resources for all of that. And I guess it just depends regionally where you are. It always kind of makes me chuckle when guys from one part of the country are asking guys in a completely different part of the country, what really is a regionally specific question.
Yeah, gravel on Nantucket is $92 a yard. And it's like 27 on the Cape, and I'm sure down in like Florida it's probably 10,
Right. Depending on what you want, we can get it for 8 over here in Oregon.
Okay.
Maybe I should just start shipping it to you, import, export.
Start shipping it.
So how could our listeners get a hold of you, Ian?
Social media on Facebook, Blue Claw Associates, on Instagram, Blue Claw Associates, on Twitter, Blue Claw Associates. We're consistent across the board. If you're interested in looking at the portfolio booklet, it's pinned on the top of our Facebook page and also on our Instagram profile. And the website is blueclawassociates.com.
Perfect. Well, Ian, we really appreciate you being a guest today. Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure the audience found a ton of value in that. I'm your host, Chris Fondrick, and thank you for tuning in to the Digital Contractor Show on Turfs Up Radio.